All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another live stream or podcast or YouTube listen of United We Nerd. Today I'm joined by Brian, or wherever you are on the screen.
I am here somewhere in the void.
And a very special guest today, Nerd Initiative Zone, Samosas and Popcorn, aka writer extraordinaire Pooja. Say hello, please.
Hello, nice to be here.
Glad you could be here. So today, about Ms. Marvel. It's been, I think, a long time coming, right? Like, I've been excited to see, like, even mentions of this when it came to fruition, and the comic run is so good, so, as the kids say, woke, but damn good. You know, it knows what it is, and I just, me and my wife loved that run, and when they announced it, we were super excited, and then the show is, well, I mean, we're gonna go into it, but good evening, everyone. As I said, we're going to talk about this again. Super excited. All right. I'll start with a couple preemptive questions before we review the episode. But before we do that, let's start with you guys. When you first heard it was announced, how'd you guys feel?
How'd you go first, Pooja?
Yeah. When I first heard it was announced, I was actually really excited. Because for me personally, it's like you said, like it's been a long time coming, but for me personally, I never thought that it would actually happen. We were just constantly hit with heroes like Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Ant-Man. And so it's just like, is it ever going to happen? And then Captain Marvel came in, then Ms. Marvel news came out, and it just felt so joyous, especially for like the South Asian community. We were just going nuts over it because it was like, we finally get our own hero. So it was just a matter of, when was it going to come out? How is it going to turn out? And while it's not perfect in every way, it definitely just, brings a lot of joy to my heart.
Yeah, and I feel like when it comes to the MCU, especially, I mean, I think from the beginning, like, MCU's never been perfect, but I feel like if given to the right people, like, you can still find the little special things in it. I think at least when I heard when Ms. Marvel was coming out, I thought it was gonna, like, back then I didn't know too much about Ms. Marvel. Like, I saw her in other comics like the Miles Morales and Civil War 2, and then through the Marvel's like the Square Enix game. But it's I'm trying to put it in words, like, you hope that it could be done properly, and I feel that at least from the most like big fan base, I feel like a lot of people were able to kind of like get into the show, and I feel like this is the first MCU Disney Plus show that has overall gotten the most praise, and I think it's really cool because anybody knows me, I'm kind of like the person that will just kind of like watch anything. It's like, if I'm entertained, I like it. So I'm like the worst person to ask if something's good or not. But I don't know. I really got into Ms. Marvel, and I thought it was a very entertaining show. But I'll throw it to you, Joel. What were your first opinions about the announcement for the show?
I was super excited. I think like Captain Marvel and Black Panther opening the doors for like other communities. Like, even remember Simu saying like Black Panther walks so Shang-Chi can run, and then I think that just showing that like, oh, communities will come and watch it. Well, like, no shit. But it's like it did a good job with those movies, and I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure they're gonna do a great job with Ms. Marvel. And there were like things I heard on the way to it being released, some things I was like, I don't know, but I'll still give it a chance and see what happens. And some of the creative freedoms they took, I thought I wouldn't like as much, but it still works really well. And we'll get into spoilers soon, but there's a really big moment I didn't expect them to do either. I was like, whoa, like I think they're really committed to making Miss Marvel and anyone around her like believable, good, and it's fun to watch overall too. And that's basically like the comics. It's fun, it's relevant, and it's digestible for everyone, and they did that really well. So super excited, and I think they pulled it off. So
Definitely.
Yeah. Shall we begin?
Oh yeah.
All
Shall
right.
we give the spoiler warning?
Oh, you know it. All right. You're listening to this. If you're watching this wherever, YouTube, Twitch, Spotify, just a reminder, hey, we're gonna dive deep into Miss Marvel. We're gonna talk about all the spoilery things. We're probably gonna jump around here and there because I'm gonna be super excited about everything. But just so you know, major spoilers for Miss Marvel. All right. Here we go. All right. So um just I thought it was okay. So starting with episode 1, like we'll jump around to, just I thought it was super meta before we talk about it, that they have like this person who loves the Avengers, loves superheroes, is gonna go to a convention, you know, and then they're gonna have they reveal that they have powers, of course, during that big event when they're celebrating all these things. It's just you know, it's just one part of the episode that I jumped to, but it's super meta, but really, really well done. You know, it's believable and super fresh as far as it goes. Like it's super fun. I just think that's like the main MO of like the whole series. It's just fun. Like especially like the art style. Like you see like little art a drawing she does or thought she has come to life, spring to life. Like, oh man, that's some good imagination there. Just blew me. First episode was just like wow, like I was hooked and I'm here for more. And yeah, just you know, they show that she really loves Captain Marvel too. Of course, right? It makes sense. She's Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel, and they just her whole room is like adorned with all these Avenger things, which I love. It's just like you can already relate because I'm pretty sure if you're watching Miss Marvel, you're a fan of Marvel and Avengers stuff. It's like, oh, we're literally the same. You can already relate right away. So I just was like, oh, okay, they know what they're doing. That, but before we go, a little more meteor initial thoughts right away for episode 1.
Yeah, I feel the same way as you do. I was actually talking to a couple of people earlier when like the show first premiered, and we were talking about the fact that Miss Marvel is literally just all of us, you know. It's her she basically represents the spirit of like a super fan. Especially for people who are fans of Marvel, who might be fans of, you know, things like anime or DC, you know, whatever the case may be, she is the epitome of a super fan. And so just seeing that be brought on screen is just so fun to see because you get to see what's inside of her mind. And like you said, like her little doodles, her drawings, it's from her imagination. And it's so creative that they just decided to animate all of that as a way to tell the story. And even like the whole thing about like the text messages, just the small little things,
Oh
it was
yeah.
fun to see that like be shown very differently. A lot of the times you'll see in TV shows, they'll have like just the simple like Apple text, you know, just that little format. But this one was like you could see the text messages on the street, you could see it in the lighting on the windows, and it was so different. Just the way that they use so much creativity to like tell their story as they went along. And then just seeing like the family dynamic for Kamala and her family just really reflected on my own personal experiences just because of the fact that she is South Asian. And the kind of interactions that you have with your parents are not like everybody else's necessarily. You have to plan your day out to figure out how you're going to talk to them, how you're going to convince them to go to something as big as AvengerCon, and then like the relationship with the brother is there. It's just there's so many different nuanced moments that make the show what it is, and it's shown in the first episode. So that was really like surprising to me, and I'm happy to have seen it be executed that way.
Mhm.
Definitely agree.
Yeah, is just like you said before, like the art style for this show in this episode, like especially just helps you just kick into what you can expect for this whole series. Like it's like when I was watching it, it like kind of reminded me of kind of like how Scott Pilgrim was filmed, except to like the nth degree, you know.
Mhm.
And to kick it back to AvengerCon, like I said before, I am more familiar with the Kamala from the video game, and how that video game starts is that she wins a trip to this kind of like Avengers Expo in San Francisco. And so I was watching this and I was like, oh shit. It's like just kind of like seeing like the comparisons and like of that. And also just kind of the weird thought. And it's like, this is like, is like, because we see them as like Marvel superheroes, right? But I'm just like thinking this world, these guys are like war heroes in a way. So like you're having a convention for war heroes in your own universe. And it's so interesting. And of course, like it was what you expect to see from like any like Comic-Con or something. Everybody's all dressed up and like all goofy. And of course you have the people that are like have very extravagant cosplays, or the people that kind of have like the, you know, do it at home cosplays that are always cool to see. And then just being able to have everything kind of set up for this adventure that they're going to take us on just in this one episode alone was great. I felt it was paced really well. Like you got to have enough time with all the characters that you're going to see, and you kind of got the gist of, you know, who they are and like where they start from compared to how they're going to end up in the end of this of the season. And it's just I feel it was, compared to the other shows, I feel like it was the most like cohesive as far as just kind of like being able to just have a good timeline throughout the entire episode. And like when episode's over, it's like that's it. And it's like I was waiting for it. Like I was like, I want to keep going. I want to go. You know, I don't want to see what Kamal is gonna do with that bangle, man.
Definitely agree. Speaking of, that was like one of the changes for the show is she of course gets a package one day, the artifact from one of her relatives. It's a bangle that later is revealed in the episode gives her powers, which, you know, different from the comics, it's Terrigen Mr. Gas, and then the games, right? It's the Terrigen. So I don't know if were you guys like when they announced that, were you guys kind of like miffed anyway or bothered about like how she got her powers?
It was definitely different. It's not something that I think any of us expected. I think we all knew that there was going to be some sort of alteration to her powers, or at least the origin of her powers. But like, as with any, you know, Marvel project, you kind of have to wait it out in order to see what the actual full story is.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know that some people were miffed about it. They're kind of like, I don't like the origin story, but it's just really a game of patience because we never really had the full story in that episode alone. I thought it was a really interesting take though, just to kind of take it in a different direction and try something new to expose her powers. And the fact that it comes from her nani, which is grandmother, that clearly meant that it has something to do with her family history. And so it definitely led into the rest of the episodes that talked about her family's history. So I think overall it's not something that really bothered me too much off the bat. It's kind of a nice, interesting perspective.
Yeah, because I think from this point we kind of have to expect a little bit of the familiar with like how the comics did it, but then we also have to kind of expect a little bit of a twist into it. So I know when they start showing off kind of like the changes to her powers, for me, you know, I was on the boat of just kind of the wait and see, just like, okay, let's see, you know, let's see what they could do with it. Maybe it'll be cool. And I mean, for me, I thought it was an interesting take. Like I know for some people, like the story that was like, oh, because their powers are so close to Mr. Fantastic, they don't want people to get confused, which I don't know if that was ever confirmed or not. So I think that was just kind of like something people were kind of running on as kind of like their argument on the internet. But yeah, it, like you said, it was really cool to have it be kind of like a part of her like family history and kind of the the um the item to which it propels the story and kind of like shows you like, okay, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to tell the story, and in a way to, you know, still make it fit within the world of Miss Marvel, but then also just kind of like make it a little bit of the MCU, you know. And of course we're going to mention it later on, there's a little bit more of a twist that comes with it, but I'm sure we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah. And you know, of course, she has her. You know, she discovers she has this power at this place she wanted to be at, dressed as the person she adores, and she has her very own hero moment, which I thought was really cool. And to your point of comes, it's great that the episode also shows like that involvement with family, how close she is. She's like you said, Pooja, she's preparing all day to ask to go to Avenger Con. She sneaks off and does it anyway. But just it's just so well done. And then of course she can't go at first, right? They or she's talking, they have to go on, mom and dad's terms, big Hulk, little Hulk, which fucking I loved, by the way. I thought that was great. Dad all agree. It's just done so well. And just I know I'm all over the place. I just love it so much.
I just have to say, I love her dad. Her dad is like one of my favorite characters in the show. He's great.
Oh, definitely. I love Uncle Yusuf because he is he reminds me a lot of my dad. There's a lot of strictness from him, but there's also like a lot of goofiness from him as well. That just made me really reminiscent of him. And just that particular scene with with Big Hulk, Little Hulk, that was equal parts cute, but also heartbreaking because for me personally, I mean, I've done something similar to that, and you could see the pain in his eyes when he's just kind of feeling dejected almost. And it's just like, no, like that just broke me. So like I remember I was doing some commentary videos about that particular episode, and I had to rewatch that scene all over again, and I just started crying.
Oh,
it hit me in the feels so much.
Oh.
So yeah, really well done.
Yeah, just that. Yeah, Yusuf, and then Maniba too. Her mom. It just it evolves, but just the family dynamic is so goddamn strong, so good. And we'll talk more about it, but just the show actually did that right too. I feel like other shows or other Marvel things have kind of made it corny, but they did it really well. And then this is what I want to say. To your point about like confusing it with Mr. Fantastic, I kind of saw it too, but I'm glad they distanced it now, having seen what happened to him in Multiverse. So yeah, that's good. I think that distance is good.
Definitely.
But yeah, a jam-packed episode, big origin episode. And then I'm probably forgetting a lot, but just jumping ahead. It ends with like the post credits. It shows our friend from Damage Control, who was in No Way Home, saying we got to go check out New Jersey because there's a disturbance of like an enhanced individual. So that was cool. Little connection to No Way Home again, and Damage Control's brought back again to investigate. So we'll see how that like perpetuates the story as well later. But I just want to say overall, like a really strong, fun first episode. Like I think it just, like I said before, just so fun, and I think the whole episode kind of sets the precedent for what's going to come next in the series, or at least I thought. But then, of course, they throw in those those heavy good moments and story. Oh, it's so good, so good. What do you guys think of episode 1?
Really good episode.
Really good episode to introduce the character. Also, I actually did want to ask, what are your guys' thoughts on Bruno?
Bruno at first kind of confused me because I was like, okay, so obviously he's supposed to be some kind of super genius. But then I will say one of my maybe like slight critiques about the first episode was that for as much as we saw of Bruno, we didn't really get much of his backstory. Like we knew like, oh, his parents are gone. How? We don't know why. Maybe they'll get to it later sometime. But like I just like that he was like instantly just like the guy in the chair for Kamala, and it was like, okay, so he works at the convenience store below his apartment. It's like, okay, but then he's also just somehow being able just to kind of like have these like super advanced like mini computers that can like figure out someone's DNA or something like that. Okay, sure, all right, cool, all right. But yeah, I mean I think he's a decent character. I kind of hoped that we'll get to kind of learn more about him in the future, as far as just kind of like, because it seems like there's something about him that's there that they're not telling us yet, and I don't know much about like how Bruno is like in the comics, so I don't know if I'm just missing something that I don't know about yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing it, like how all the characters progress.
Yeah. I feel like Bruno is one of those characters that I am sort of in the middle about, because I know that his interaction with Kamala in the comics is it's good, and then it's not so great after some point. So I
Uh-oh.
don't know if that's the direction they're gonna take it
Uh-oh.
in. But I mean, just as like her friend, I feel like he is a really good character in that sense, at least in the show. And they've definitely made
Hmm.
him a little bit more likable. So it's hard to not like him at all because he just has this
Interesting.
sort of, yeah, he has this like, teenage boy charm. He's very, innocent, very just very boyish, if anything,
Hmm.
and just like the scenes between Kamala and Bruno, where it's very obvious he is into her,
Oh
but
yeah.
Kamala just is
Mhm.
so oblivious. And it's partly in due to the fact, like, you're a boy that is not Pakistani, so I cannot date you ever. So I'm just gonna ignore the fact that you might have potential feelings for me. So it's just really interesting to see their dynamic.
Hmm.
I think you guys said it well. Like, he's a good side character. You hit all the notes. I would like to hear like a little bit more, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad they glossed over so we could just focus on
Oh yeah.
Miss Marvel and Kamala and her
Oh yeah.
friends her other friends a little more, which is cool. But yeah, I am curious to see how far they progress their relationship. You know what I mean? So we'll see. Yeah. It was interesting to hear that he auditioned for Spider-Man though. That was a cool little fact.
Yeah, that
Whoa,
was
wait,
so
what?
weird.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so apparently he was
Really?
one of the people who auditioned to be Spider-Man. But of course, Disney really good about repurposing people, and now he's Bruno.
All right. Interesting fun fact.
Right. That was interesting to hear. It's like I was trying to imagine, like he kind of has the Peter Parker face. I could see it a little. Maybe he
He
made like
definitely
top
does.
5. But
Mhm.
sorry, Bruno. Tom Holland is it. I'm calling him Bruno. It's not even the same. But you know what I mean. All right.
He's the Spider-Man PS4 remaster version.
There you go. Just the hair is a little off. Um, so episode 2. So if we start to see like Kamala train with Bruno, kind of refine her powers, and of course she's like super excited. She's a hero, right? She's living her dream. She discovers these powers. Um, and then let's see. I'm just looking through the synopsis so I can remember. Oh, okay. So she has a friend named Nakia, right? But they get together. They're kind of talking about. She hasn't shared her secret with her, which of course is a big point in this story as well in the comics. But they actually, this next part I'm going to talk about. They threw in another character coming in to kind of get to know Kamala, and maybe be like a flame. A Cameron, like that was super fast already, at least for me, because in the comics they kind of like bring it along a little bit, like boom, he's already here. He's gonna kind of try to not get with, you know what I mean? Like get familiar with Kamala, kind of find out what she's about, her history, the Bangle and stuff. So I was like, whoa, we're going. Okay, it's like, oh, we're going this route. Okay, I think they, as far as those two characters go, they cast them really well, and they did like awesome as far as like side characters to Kamala and like a part of her life, and of course like like good high school friends too, right? It was just all believable too, instead of like 30-year-old dudes like, yeah man, can't wait to go to lunch. That was a cool thing, young diverse people together. And of course, like as we mentioned before, Kamala thinks Cameron is hot stuff, and it was like, oh, he's a little jealous, and we start to see that build a little. I mean, he's cool. He's got that car. It makes sense. They're teenagers, all that jazz.
Oh yeah, I really like Kamran. Just his whole like entrance into the first episode, because you see right off the bat Kamala's walking in. She's super hot. She's like, I'm confident. I'm gonna correct that person on my name. I'm gonna stand up for myself. Like I need you to move away from my locker. And she just has this energy, and then she runs into Kamran, and she's like, oh, this dude is hot.
Melt.
Yeah.
Right, and so it's just like the entire progression of the entire episode is just like her wanting to go to the party because Kamran might be there. She ends up running into him, and she literally has no words for him. She's just like, I forgot my name. I'm Kamala. I'm Kamala. And it's definitely reminiscent of how I used to feel, like with my own high school crush. Just you don't know what to say. You're just kind of there. And so just the way that Kamran and Kamal are able to connect to each other on a different level that unfortunately Bruno cannot, he can't do that necessarily. They're able to connect on Bollywood and their culture. And it's just so nice to see that, because I also want to mention the fact that it's not very common that you see two South Asian leads that are like potentially going to be romantically interested. So that was really nice to see. And to me, I don't know about anybody else, but I feel like Kamran gives like hot boy himbo vibes just because of
At
his
le-
whole energy.
He does. He does.
yeah, at least from like when he first got introduced, definitely.
Yeah, right off the bat, just straight up like he's hot, but he's also a bit of a himbo. But I just when I saw this first or this episode where we see him, it was just really interesting to. It was going to interest me in terms of how we're going to go ahead and see his character progress throughout the series, because like Joel said, he was introduced so quickly, and so I just wasn't sure how they were going to maneuver his story, if they were going to change things. But yeah, his character is really cool. I like him.
Yeah, he definitely, like, at least coming from somebody that's not like super familiar with all the characters, like if at first he like really came off as like, okay, so there's something about him, like there's something like story specific about him. It's like, okay, so I'm trying to like pay attention to kind of like see, if there's like, okay, so maybe maybe he's gonna be like a good guy. And of course later on they kind of do the swerve a little bit. It's like, all right, well, I didn't expect that. But Pooja, what you're talking about before, how they were like, they were they were both interacting with each other, kind of like getting to know each other. um i I lost my shit when they actually dropped the reference of Kingo,
Yeah,
because
that was nice.
Yes.
Kingo's my, like, Eternals is kind of like, it's all right movie for me. It's like, but Kingo's like my favorite character in that movie, and just to have that little shout out, it's like, hell yeah, let's go. Show some respect.
I imagine that like Kingo is probably like in Bollywood, there's an actor named Shah Rukh Khan, and he's like a really big action romance hero. So I feel like that's where he took the inspiration from a little bit.
Okay.
So that's why you see his name dropped so many times.
Okay. Yeah, it's just like really funny because like we get that backstory from Eternals, and it's like how he's just like been the same person but like pretending to be a family member and like doing Bollywood movies like throughout generations, and then to have that come up in this movie, it's like his legacy lives on. It's so good. um but yeah, it's a very interesting kind of like, when we get later on in, I don't know if it happens in this episode or episode 3, just kind of like the progression of Kamran, to kind of show more of what he's about. Because like you said before, at first he comes off just kind of like the himbo, kind of like, it's like, sup guys, hi, you want to go take a drive in my nice car, I could teach you how to drive and stuff like that. So I think out of all the characters, he definitely is kind of up there as kind of one of the more interesting, side character. I wouldn't even consider him a side character. I think he's one of the pivotal characters in this show, as far as just kind of like who is helping progress Kamala's story as well. But yeah, it's what makes this show like so relatable to like a mass audience. Like, not only do you get kind of the Southeast Asian kind of like representation, but also you just get like, for all of us, it's like we recognize this kind of stupid like high school stuff that we did through Kamala, and it's like I understand how that feels. So like I just can connect so easily. Like I can remember being like dumbfounded and just being like staring off into the distance. It's like loss of words, like, looking at the person that you're like interested in, and it's like I could totally understand how that feels.
High school awkwardness abound, and they captured it so well. I just wanted to talk about this next part. It's Kamala has the vision of a mysterious woman that she gets, through her powers of the Bengal. And then Kamala asks her family about her great grandmother, Aisha, the original person who has the Bengal, but they kind of dodge it, right? And then, Yusef says that, someone lost away during partition. They're able to find their father again. And for me, I've never heard of partition until this show.
No.
So it's another case of superhero uh like series informing me, just like the Oklahoma bombings with Watchmen. So I was like, oh shit, this is opening a whole new world, which I don't know if that's like world history I missed or whatever, but or maybe they didn't teach it, right? But it's just, opening up new doors, I think, which they did really well as well when they actually get into the meat of it, which was really cool to like explore a whole like historical event that means probably so much to so many people that of course you never hear about it, right? Or people, they don't want you to hear about like these differences. So um I just wanted to say, like, how familiar are you guys with that? Like, because for me, I was like, what? Like, it was like world drop, like new thing for me. So just want to see what you guys thought of that.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, I have honestly never even like I think I knew about it, but it was never described as partition to me when I was younger.
oh,
And like the perspective that I always got because it's a very difficult topic to talk about because there's so many different like aspects to it. And a lot of it has to do with like obviously British involvement and the separation of religion from like Hindus and Muslims. And that's a big reason why there was so much like separation between those two. It's just because of the fact that the British, really made that something that was they made a big deal about it. And I think that's just a very European mentality. And basically just what I was taught when I was younger is more of like I guess like the Indian Hindu side of it, where and it's always like, oh, well, our side was right. Our side did the right thing. And I'm sure that that's the case for like Pakistani Muslims. And so I was never taught the full story. We were only taught one side of it to where, we had to separate, we had to, Hindus were in India and Muslims were only in Pakistan. So it's definitely something that wasn't taught in school. I can tell you that much. But I'm also kind of glad that it wasn't taught in school because I don't think that it would have been taught with a lot of like care, especially because of the just the seriousness of it all and the fact that there's so much in-depth information that is easily going to get missed and lost. And there's definitely going to be sides that are taken over, over the others. So it's an interesting thing that they brought this up in this show, and I'm really glad that they did because I think it was brought up in the comics at one point as like a plot line. And this is definitely like a history lesson in a show, which was nice that they included it because I've seen so many people, including myself, learn about partition. And it's really nice to see history being shown through media now. And I think that's probably the new way that we're going to end up learning about all of this stuff going forward.
it's just crazy to think that's the case because you would think that stuff like this would be kind of like learned in like like some kind of history course, but like we we have to kind of get it where we can get it, and we're having these creatives um take the leap forward into showing off like, hey, this is our history, this is what you know our ancestors had to go through to get to where we are today. And so to have that in this show is great. And to go off of your question, Joel, like you, I had no idea this was a thing. Like just like so many other things that we've learned through, other MCU shows or just any other kind of like pop culture things in general. So it's again just really interesting that we were able to get um somewhat of a history lesson through our entertainment, but also it's still done in a respectful way. It's not done to be kind of like, oh, it's like, hey, we're gonna go have fun in this area. It's like, no, it's like we're gonna tell you a story, but we're also gonna teach you something, and hopefully it'll stick with you. So like you'll learn something through this.
So, and like for me, eye opening. I think that's a good point, Pooja. Like maybe it shouldn't have been taught to us, with the teachers we had. No offense to my teachers, but there were a lot of. I'm gonna say they were not the right people to teach that. So I think you're right. But there's some things I think that should be mentioned. But yeah, it's layered, right? But glad to learn something new. Yeah, we find out the person Kamala rescued at AvengerCon is being interrogated by people at Damage Control trying to figure out what happened. And what it leads to is very real world. They start having like these government officials like, oh, we're going to target mosques and all these other centers. And it's like, oh, great. It's that certain event that happened again, right? It's like it hits really close to home. But I mean, I'm glad they did though. I'm just like they didn't gloss over it. They're like, hey, remember that thing that happened with the in New York? It's like, guess what? Here's like a parallel. It's like, oh wow. And they they did it in a digestible way, which I thought was great. Eventually it leads to like they're celebrating Eid. There's a big gathering of family and friends. And again, Kamala tries to do the heroic thing. She even puts on her costume and tries to save this boy who's hanging from a tower. And, which leads to next. I know I'm probably glossing over a lot, which you guys can help me fill in stuff. But she catches this kid who's about to fall, but she doesn't do it well. She like kind of fumbles it, drops the kid, and she's not good at it, which I love. I mean, as much as I love superheroes getting it right the first time, I love that showing that she has room to grow. She's not perfect at it, and that was just a good moment. And of course, the kid's okay, right? It's just like, oh wow, she needs some more work at the superhero thing, which I love seeing. But I believe during the middle of that, she has like a vision. I think it's a person during that rescue. And that's how God, can't talk. Why she kind of fumbles the rescue. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that particular scene in general was just like, I think it really shows who Kamala is, regardless of how inexperienced she might be, or how she might not even have any control over her powers. She's willing to do the right thing. And so that's exactly why she goes up there and she tries to save the kid, because even though she's a little bit hesitant at first in terms of using her powers, the moment that it looks like it's going to go south, she speeds up. And so she understands the idea of just timing. You can't just wait on these things, you got to act quick, or act quick. But it's really nice to see that part of Kamala, and know that she is. A lot of people compare her to Peter Parker, and I think that's kind of true in a sense, the way that they are both willing to help their community and they're willing to help people regardless of what's at stake. And it's just nice to see another character that really takes that into consideration. The other thing I actually want to bring up too is Nakia's character, just kind of seeing her progression throughout the episode, and the fact that this episode really solidifies a positive perspective on like Muslims and their religion, their culture, because normally when you see things like this, it's kind of in a very negative aspect, just like Joel said. It's like, we're referring back to, other instances that happened. But this is like the first time that we're seeing something so positive, and it's so it's done in good faith, and we have like the introduction of Sheikh Abdullah, who is a really really in touch religious leader. Like he can connect to the youth a lot more than like what we usually see, and that's something that I really enjoyed seeing. But yeah, just those characters, those moments just really make the episode so good, and just make it really well rounded.
Shout out to Illuminatis.
Yeah.
Illuminatis.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, those Illuminantes are real. They are like they are not messing around when they say, yeah, we're just gonna, Aisha might have killed someone. Aisha might have done this. These things do happen all the time with the aunties, and
Oh.
it's a nightmare to deal with, but it's also a little bit fun to watch happen. So
Watching aunties gossip is a pastime that I think any generation can get a kick out of.
Hmm. Yeah, and just to your point, like I really love that they fleshed out people in her life and community and really brought it to life. Which again, like they haven't Marvel hasn't always done well, but here it's great, and it just shows like community can make just a big change, which they do very well later, which we'll bring up. I just want to say they hit all those points so well. Um, oh yeah, here we go. Um, Kamala is, of course, before we segue to the next episode, is chased by damage control because she just rescued the kid. And then it looks things like are dire. She's killing those drones from No Way Home, or maybe a few. And then, of course, Cameron rescues her with the car. It's like, oh, great time. I was going like, oh, how's she going to get out of this? Of course, it's Cameron with the car. But then they reveal the person that she saw with through the bangle was Cameron's mom. I was like, what? That was I wasn't expecting that at all. So that was a nice little twist for that end of the episode.
Definitely a cliffhanger. I was just like, what
Mhm.
is gonna happen? So it really makes you want to watch the next episode right away.
Oh, definitely.
Hmm.
I would say again another strong episode. Just fleshing out characters, community. It's really strong, and we're just seeing everything grow, and it's a really good episode. And I think almost as I don't want to compare it. I actually don't want to compare the episodes, but I think just as good as episode 1. So all right. Ooh, all right. Episode 3, Destined. All right. This is like I feel like always in the miniseries 3 and 4 are like I mean, I guess it gets meaty forever. Just like, oh, it's so everything they explain here is really good. Um yeah, Cameron's mom Najma explain am I saying that right? Okay, I hope not. I hope I'm not butchering it. Explains that she and Cameron are part of a group called the clandestines who are enhanced basically, and then they tie it in to say with mythology they claim to be jinns from this dimension called the Noor dimension, right? So I feel like they with incursions and stuff they kind of mentioned before and other universes they're starting to open up like the worlds, and of course with the one above all, or Kang, right? They're starting to like really open up other universes, portals, dimensions where other characters can come from, and I'm just glad that they're able to go there now with all the characters, their backgrounds, and whatever. It's nice. Instead of just being confined to just Earth and space. It's like now dimensional other Earths on top of Earth. Oh man, it's just awesome to see. And uh, they connect it. Najma says Aisha, relative of Kamal, was also a clandestine, and basically they're gonna need Kamala's bangle to go back home to their other dimension. So we see like Kamala has this thing that's been helping, give her powers, but then of course there's another party interested in what she has to kind of go home, and we're gonna see what happens later with that. But yeah, just lots of world building from here, which I was just eating it up. It was like this is great. Like I want to see more and more and how everything is tying in. Of course, it goes back to Bruno. He's like kind of mentioning, traveling between dimensions could be dangerous, right? I mean, I feel like that's kind of his role though too, to kind of keep Kamala in check, right? Because she's a teenage superhero, right? She's gonna be. I mean, we would think a little more reckless than adults, not really, right? But just kind of keep her in check with that.
Also, just kind of like Bruno's like, where is this technology coming from? Like,
Yeah.
just being able to like just scan like out
Oh yeah.
interdimensional portals and whatnot. It's like, what's going on, man?
Yeah, like where's he getting the funding?
It's like there must be something behind that corner store. There has to be some other kind of operation going on here.
Because I
I
remember,
think
I think. Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead. I'll go after.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, I think in the comics, he like technically his funding is through the school because they actually
Oh.
like they're a really big tech school or something. And they're big
Oh.
on like the sciences, and so he's able to do a lot of what he does in the comics and create the things that he does for Kamala through the school. So I don't know if
Oh,
that's
okay.
probably the same thing that's happening, most likely. So it makes
Okay.
sense why he has this like weird computer that he can just be like, well, this is your blood data, this is what's going on. So
So I
yeah.
got your blood work back, and it seems like you're more than human.
Do-do-do-do-do.
Yeah. I was gonna say actually on that note before we go into it later, like maybe that's why he's so smart, but I just we'll touch on that later. Anyway, because I can't okay. Anyway, I'm excited about it already. Um yeah. Oh, this is okay. So basically there's a power struggle now between Najma and Kamala. They're gonna it's like, hey, I need the bangle to go home. And she's like, no, sorry, it's like my family heirloom. And of course they're gonna have a fight, but it's the same day as her brother's wedding, right? Of course. And they have this nice little dance routine and get together. Families are there, it's exciting, it's cool. But ultimately they have this shit's about to go down. Kamala, sees it coming and he kind of takes it upon himself, like, oh, I'm gonna ruin my brother's wedding. She pulls the fire alarm, everyone gets out, and then shit gets wild. They have these enhanced individuals come and find Kamala. They start to fight in the venue and stuff, and you see her really like exploring her powers even more and using them more to fight them. So that was pretty cool. I heard some like a little more. I heard some criticisms about God, can't talk. Some criticisms of this episode that it wasn't written, even though it was like a how do I put this correctly? It was like a cultural wedding, but not written by right people. And I heard that was or like directed by the right people, or at least people of that culture. Or that was a criticism of this episode. And
Yeah, because I think the episode was definitely not written necessarily by like South Asians. And I think that was just a critique throughout the entire episode, especially with the mention of Jinn.
Mhm.
Because I mean, I'm not Muslim, so I don't really know too much about it, but from what I have discussed with others who do understand it, not like it's not necessarily it's not a being that's like mythological, or it's not like a ghost or a spirit. It's something that they believe is legitimately real. And so I think that's why the reaction that Kamala has when Najma tells her, like, you are Jinn, it's literally like the perfect reaction, because it's like, I can't be Jinn, because essentially like Jinn are not viewed as human, I guess you could say. So it's a very like
Okay.
gray area. It's weird that they brought it up at all, especially with what we see in the later episodes and just how it's not as present. But as far as like the wedding goes, I mean, the thing to keep in consideration with like South Asian weddings is that they're all done differently. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Especially because there's like so many different like cultural and subcultural groups that we just do things differently. So I think it's not necessarily like, oh, they did it wrong, but it was probably just a different way of doing things. But I personally really liked seeing what they did. Um, like for me personally, I didn't really get the opportunity to do that when I was getting married. It was just really small. But if we like when people do grander scales weddings like that, it's over the top. You have all of these sort of like dance numbers, like things like that do happen, and it's so much fun. Especially just seeing like in uh in the dance number specifically, you're seeing like the older generation doing a dance to older Bollywood songs, and then you have the newer generation doing it to a newer Bollywood song. So it's just nice seeing that combination of the whole routine.
It was definitely really cool, especially since for at least for TV nowadays, you don't really get to see that kind of like side to a culture. Like you get to see the celebrations that they have, like especially just like on like something as big as like Disney and like Marvel, something so widespread. It's it's nice to be able to kind of see that kind of nice celebratory side. And then to go to the Jin aspect you're talking about, it's interesting because now that I'm thinking about that with the kind of spin, yeah, it's kind of weird. And when I try to look back at the other episodes after that, it seems like that idea was just kind of like pushed away. It's like they knew that was a weird idea, so it's like, oh, okay. It's like we're just gonna put this in a corner. We're gonna forget about it for a while. Let's just focus on the clandestine. Forget about the Jin thing. We're gonna drop the mutant thing later. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's just kind of weird. So I don't maybe it was just a case of having a different writer for certain episodes. So some things kind of get weird a little bit, but besides that, like it didn't. I felt like it didn't like sidetrack it too much. It definitely kind of made it a little weird, but then I feel like the rest of this episode was interesting, especially when the clandestine do come in, and then everything kind of gets so chaotic, and then it's like um Kamala kind of had to have that like split-second decision. It's like, do I really want to ruin my brother's wedding? And it's like,
Mhm.
in the case of everybody's safety, yes. And then she goes into action, and um I know we'll get to see her progress later on, but it was just so interesting to see just kind of how she implements her powers throughout her stages of like her development in the show. Because like I said in the last episode, she kind of was fumbling a little bit, and then she kind of got in action, but then her vision kind of like threw her back a little bit, and so it kind of gave her a little bit of like, it's like, oh, I messed up. I don't know if I can be a hero. And then this situation happens. So it's like, okay, this is a situation where it's like, it's either they win and my family gets hurt or worse, or like I have to do this. I have to maybe deal with the ramifications from my family there of ruining the wedding, but then everybody's safe, so that's fine. And then just go into action. And then it's like, okay, it's like it's nice to see her slowly developing into the hero that we know that she's gonna be. And of course, later on in the episode, just kind of you know, like most superheroes, it kind of gets harder and harder to kind of keep her secret,
Mhm.
intact. So having her have to deal with that, especially was something that was interesting to kind of keep you tuned into to kind of see that more progression. And I think Joel's gonna be touching on this in a second about the ending of the episode. So I
Oh
can
yeah.
throw it to you.
Basically, Ashma tries to use the bangle, but then it triggers a vision of a train, which it was pretty interesting. Like that someone else was using it, and then they could see it. But basically, they're essentially Kamala and team. They try to get away. Damage control detains the clandestines, including Cameron, and because she saw the train, she gets a call from I think her grandma in Karachi saying, "Hey, did you see the train as well?" It's like, "Oh shit, there's a familiar connection again." It's like, "Well, you got to go to Karachi now." It's like, "What?" And it's gonna be like a big jump. I didn't think they would actually like go next episode, but they do, which I think is great. They like straight up, they're gonna go visit family. Her and her mom go on a little adventure. But yeah, so it's a lot happens, and again they're just teasing us more information at the end to lead us into the next one really well.
Mhm. Yeah, I love Sana, the grandmother. She is just so lovable. Like right off the bat, through her little phone calls with Kamala, she's just like all up in the screen and is like, "What?" And Kamala's like, "Can you like back away for a second?" But I really love like the fact that they're teasing their interactions, and it's very common to see that between like a grandmother and or like a grandparent in general, just with their grandchild. And it's always where, that grandparent doesn't really have a good relationship with their kid, but they'll have the best
Mhm.
relationship with their grandchild. They will dote on them forever and ever. And it's nice to see that be reflected on the screen between Sana and Kamala.
Mhm. Disney and grandmas, it's just they know how to make the coolest grandmas.
Definitely.
Another strong episode. Not gonna compare anymore. It's just really good. It's just really good. I'm just like, I'm hooked. I just want more. I can't wait for next week. And again, I didn't expect them to actually go to Karachi in episode 4. Appropriately titled Seeing Red for a reason. We're gonna see why. But basically Kamala and her mom, Muniba, travel to Karachi and they meet, I think, her like cousins, right?
Mhm.
At the airport. They show like they have different shots of the city and stuff. It's really cool. Looking, at least I think that's where they filmed it. Maybe I have to look again for the film information, but it did look um, real. Is what I'll say for now. But yeah, basically, she goes to her grandmother's place. They're getting familiar with the place. She kind of like, there's a little interaction with the cousins, like, hey, can you cover for me? I want to do some things by myself, which I think is great. I love that familial, like, hey, cover for me. And it's like, got that right. You know, sometimes family will be there, get your back. Um, but she goes to investigate, try to kind of find out like where the vision is taking her when they go to this other area, this marketplace, I believe. Um, but she puts on her mask, right, to kind of hide her identity, and she runs into trouble with this person. Basically, has like a red bandana on, tries to hide himself. And they have a little fight too. They have a little showdown, but eventually, work it out. Um, the guy reveals himself. His name is Kareem. He's called the Red Dagger, or the part of the Red Daggers. Which again, I didn't think they were gonna do very fast. That someone Kamala, I guess, kind of has like a fling with in the comics. But yeah, it's like boom, right away. Um, with the Red Daggers right here, and it was just like, whoa, we're already there. And then they get away, and it's just really cool to see that I just brought these characters in so fast and really brought them to life. And the actor I was familiar with too. It took me a second to realize, but he's in Into the Badlands. He plays this guy named NK. So it's cool to see him. I was like, oh, hey,
okay.
it's that guy. So they reused him.
Thing.
Aramis Knight, I think his name is. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of our friends doesn't like him, but I thought he did a good job as the Red Tiger. But yeah, the reason why he attacked Kamala though is because he thought she was a clandestine, which I thought was pretty cool. Is I don't remember if he it's in the comics. Now I have an excuse to reread. But Kareem takes her to their hideout, and it's like we get to see kind of the operations behind the table. The parallel worlds kind of explained a little more. There's a leader there named Waleed, and basically he's explaining that what the clandestines are doing isn't so great. And from their world, they want to come and take over this world, of course, right? It's super different, and it's very fast paced this episode, but I almost feel like at some points they were throwing too much at me, but I was keeping up though. But it's just like boom, 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 as far as like what we're getting, what we're doing next.
Yeah, definitely like a very busy episode. There was so much going on.
Definitely.
In regards to the cousins, though, I absolutely hated them.
Oh
I
no.
I hated the cousins so much. First of all, what I don't understand is if you're gonna bring your cousin to a country club that you know has a rule against jeans, why did you not tell your cousin who is clearly American? Um, but like also just kind of like the way that they navigate through like the markets of Karachi, um, which by the way is very like it reminds me so much of like New Delhi in India. It's like, similar look, like the same vehicles, the same like little fruit carts, people selling the same things, clothes, sunglasses, the haggling. It's so familiar for me. So it's just nice to see that, they're clearly making it it's clear that like Karachi and places in India are very similar. And like for me, I feel like that's something that we do see later on is to like the fact that they're all the same. Um, but it was such a like really well shot scene, just seeing like the streets and the markets of Karachi. And then you go into like kind of the cousins just showing Kamala around, and the reason that I kind of hate them is just they just kind of let her do her own thing. and they don't really like guide her necessarily. And then like the I think he might be the older cousin. He's like, you know, you must be a ABCD, you know, American born confused Daisy. And I have gotten that so many times in my
Oh,
life, and it struck a nerve with me, and I was like, okay, first of all, how dare you? You know, and it's just it really solidifies the idea that, you know, like for Kamala, she's never really, you know, Pakistani enough, she's not American enough, and it just, you know, it's something that's so relatable for I'm sure a lot of other people too who have, you know, been through that and, you know, never feel too much or like enough of one side of themselves. So it was nice that they kind of threw that in, but those cousins, you know, and the fact that they just kind of like, I know you said like, oh, they're, you know, covering for her. I feel like they just kind of just ditched her almost. They're like, yeah, whatever, that's fine. I was like, you're in the middle of Karachi. Like, what if something happens to you? So, you know, something does happen to her and she meets Kareem, who I want, for me, it's, you know, Kareem and Kamala forever. I like them together.
oh.
But Kamala first, of course. But yeah.
Yeah, it was a very well filmed episode. Just the whole environment. I tried to look up to see like if they actually like went to Karachi to film this, and I couldn't find any information like off the top of like Google.
Actually, I just did.
Oh, hey, there you
According
go.
to this, it just says due to political situation in Pakistan, the show shot in Thailand. Actually,
Oh,
I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name. Obid Chinoy worked with production designer Christopher Glass on everything from mood boards to sharing visual ideas as they faithfully recreated Karachi. So
oh, okay, interesting.
seemed pretty. So they probably mixed in some things to make it look more real, but
Hmm.
I guess to an outsider, definitely convinced me. But the know now wasn't actually there.
Movie magic.
Right.
Um,
Sure.
but yeah, I kind of agree. The cousins are kind of jerks, and it's like it's like it's okay. It's like sure, you know, and Kamala will have superpowers, but it's like still, it's like superpowers or not, it's like you don't leave your American-born cousin just like to wander off
Right.
down like the busiest street.
Where she can't even haggle herself for the record.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. Can't even haggle for directions to the train station.
Ugh.
Mm-mm.
Um, but yeah, the introduction of the Red Daggers was really interesting because it like at first I thought it was like another enemy faction because like of course coming from like a realm of ignorance I didn't know like what the Red Daggers were. I was like okay, and after like you know their little like fight in the train station was kind of over, to just have Kareem just be like it's like uh start just throwing out all of these kind of like one-liners from like really old like TV shows or movies. It's like I always wanted to say that, and it's like I like after that I was like, all right, I'm with you. Like you're cool. I like you. Um, but also shout out to my homeboy Waleed that like got done dirty
Oh yeah.
because like he kind of seemed like a really cool like mentor figure, you know, and it's like he's gonna kind of like he was the one that introduced Kamala to like this whole realm that like was she was totally oblivious to, and then right when the clandestine come in to try to like take out the operation, you know, you have like maybe like 2 minutes later and somebody just comes in and like takes out Wally, and it's like I was like no.
Yeah.
That was like that was my little reaction. I out loud I was like but we just met him.
Yep.
And he was
And he
so
was really
cool.
and he was
Yeah.
so cool. But you know, I guess for the sake of storytelling, what had to be done had to be done. But still, I still hold on. It's like Wally,
Thought we would see him again, like just hurt. It's like nah,
like a psych
straight up
out. It's like,
gone, right.
oh,
Yep,
Well,
nope,
we never
gone.
know. You never know at this
True.
point.
that's true. That's
They
true.
might bring him back. I also, for the record, I love Waleed because he's played by Farhan Akhtar, which is he's Pakistani, but he's big in Bollywood right now. So I
Oh,
think that's why they like kind of pulled him as like one of the main people that they wanted to like really make the show more well known. And to drive more people to watch it. But he's amazing, and I wish we saw more of him.
yeah. He seemed like a really cool character.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like this episode, like again does a good job of kind of introducing people that are on the outside of just this whole different like culture, just to kind of show another side to things. And I felt like, you know, besides the kind of the asshole cousins, they kind of did they kind of did well, just kind of represent what like a day in the life of like Karachi would be like.
Think so too. Yeah, just again, I think you put it pretty well. Like a busy episode for sure. But they're you know they only have 6 episodes to do it. And they got to prove you know what they're doing. But yeah, clandestines escape from prison, attack the Red Daggers. We see Waleed die, and there's a big fight. Eventually, like chase leads to an area, and then basically they kill a couple clandestines, and because they try to open up the dimension with the bangle, and then we actually see the fight takes Kamala back in time to the time of partition at the end, which I thought
Yeah.
was a really interesting
Mhm.
take. I didn't expect that at all. I thought they were just going to be like a showdown kind of. Maybe they'll get the Bengal, get away, they have to regroup, but nah, straight up, it's like boom, you're going to partition. Even though we talked about it, like I mean, they talked about it, you know what I mean, but we're gonna live it. So that was
Yeah.
a good interesting twist.
That was actually a really good ending to the scene. Just like when you see the overlaying shot of all these people trying to get on the train, it's so crowded and it's just utter chaos. And just like the sweeping music of just like you don't know what's gonna happen next until the next episode. It gave me goosebumps. Like it made me tear up because you know that the next episode is gonna break your heart, and break our hearts did it do.
Yeah, this is the point where Miss Marvel started getting serious.
Hmm.
Yeah, it shit got real for sure.
Yeah.
Um, is this episode the one where Najma stabs it, and does she open the portal and then something happens, or is that the
So
next
like,
episode?
I think that's the next
Okay, I'm
episode.
yeah,
confusing it.
Yeah.
Okay,
because
cool.
Yeah.
All
because
right.
it got activated when she stabbed the bangle, and then that's when like
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Kamala's transported, and that's what kind of threw me for a loop, because like, okay, it's like, so is she just kind of seeing the vision of like what happened back then through like her great grandmother, or it's like, is she actually like in this world, is she like tangible? And it's like it was a good cliffhanger to like make you want to like wish the episode 5 came out sooner than next Wednesday.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, one of the things that I really liked is that they kind of tease a little bit of the next episode earlier on with Waleed, where he's able
Oh,
to translate the little inscription that's on the bangle, the whole
Yeah.
"what you seek is seeking you."
Oh
So
yeah, I
I thought that
love
was
that line.
so cool. Like I was like, I
yeah.
love that line so much.
Oh
So it was just like, are we gonna get more of that? Like, so it's I'm really excited for episode 5.
yeah, and that's I was gonna bring up that line, but I'm glad you brought it up because I totally forgot about that. Because how they it's so good. Anyway, okay, episode 5, time and again. So basically, it's to set the scene. They're in India in 1942. Aisha's like kind of hiding in a village, and she's gonna run into this activist named Hassan or Hassan, and offers her a place to stay. You know, fast forward a little, they spend the night. You know, they fall in love, they have a kid, and actually it's 5 years later. And then, of course, she was clandestine before, but Najma finds her again and says, "Hey, you got to join us again." And she's kind of like, "No, that's my old life. You know, like, want to do something else now." Um, and she, you know, she has orders to get the bangle, and then she's gonna leave the bangle with Sana. So I just thought it was really cool that we're starting the episode, but not just with Kamala, with her family in the past, and we're gonna like get to that point. It's just really cool to see that perspective. And even for a second, they show like these British people kind of like being, you know what, colonizers. So it's um, yeah, it's just like, oh, they actually they went there a little. I wish they went there a little more, but they touched upon it. So yeah. Eventually it does take us to the area where we saw Kamal last. in the train area. But Najma finds Aisha and eventually just stabs her. And it's like, oh shit! Like I didn't expect this. Like, why do they always talk bad about that relative? It's like because she died, and maybe they thought that she left them, but she didn't. It's because fucking she was killed. It's like, oh shit. Family history.
It was such a like you knew it was gonna happen. You knew something bad was gonna happen, but it still hurt when it did. Just being stabbed, and then you got the interchange between like Kamala trying to like figure out like what's going on, and like she knows like she should start looking for her grandmother in the crowd, and it's like trying to figure it, and then I felt like this was some of like the most perfect just kind of like callbacks for the series, because like earlier on in the season, they always, whenever the story about her grandmother would come up during partition, it's like, oh, like, she got separated from her father, and and what happened was she followed the twinkling stars and followed it, and it led her back to her father, and it's like, okay, so like how is that going to work? And then lo and behold, you find out like, oh, it wasn't like the bangles. I mean, technically it was the bangle, but it wasn't how we thought. It wasn't her mother. It was Kamala, the one that helped her grandmother trying to get back to her father. And and then of course, like she was like stretching her power to the limit, and then she kind of lost it. But then through that, the as her like her little like platform was like fading away, it turns into like little like shimmering sparkles of like light, and it's like, oh shit, like like Kamala was the one that went back and saved her own grandmother. It's like, oh shit, that was so I love when people do that. It's like little subtle things where you think it's not going to really matter in the end, but then they figure out a way to make it like one of the most important story details like in an episode. I love it.
They even have Kamala meet Aisha, which I didn't even think was gonna happen. She finds her like in her dying breath, and that connection, and what you seek is seeking you comes up like big time here. And it's like, oh, perfect. Like you're saying, just perfect connection, perfect callbacks, and she guides her grandma to her father, and it's just so well done. Oh man, it's heart wrenching. I don't. It's just, so much in this episode. It's so good.
Yeah, it's such an emotional episode, just like, from point A to all the way to that point B at the very end. Um, I feel like just watching Aisha and Hassan's relationship develop, it's so typical of like I don't know how it is for other people, but like I know for like Asians and South Asians, like we all have that similar kind of relationship with, and romantically, where it's really slow, and it's that huge slow burn kind of deal, and you don't really see a lot happen, and then you just kind of like you just are together, and it's nice to see that, development between the two. Like they just start to really get to know each other, and even when he's offering her food, and she's in her, or she's in his home, it's just what really catches her eye is just that simple line, what you seek is seeking you. And immediately she's like, my name is Aisha. And it's like, that's it. That just, sealed the deal for her. And I don't know, just their relationship is amazing. But even seeing them try to come to terms with what's going on in India, what's going on with partition and everything that's happening with the British, the fact that, Muslims are kind of needing to leave at this point, it's really heart-wrenching to see how they actually portrayed all of that, because that it did happen. It's not the full story, obviously, but it's something that that did happen frequently to a lot of people out there. And just again, seeing Kamala be suddenly thrown into the train station, I would have had a straight up anxiety attack.
Oh
She
yeah.
had so much composure, so much strength during that scene of just guiding Sana to Hassan. And it just really shows the kind of character that she is. It's kind of like I was saying earlier, she is somebody who will do whatever she can to help someone, even if it's her family, even if it's her friends, somebody she doesn't know, she will do whatever she can. And just the little twinkling lights, like it just, your heart just swells because of all the emotions that just come up from this entire episode. Um, and then all the way up until the ending too, that whole scene with her mother, Buniba, like it, and then of course her grandmother too. It just, it all comes full circle, and there's like this huge understanding between three different generations that is so heartwarming, and it's just it really is an emotional episode.
Yeah, and I think this was in the previous episode, but we had that scene between Kamala's mom and grandmother, just kind of like after all these years, like finally just like kind of like, you know, letting everything out in the open. It's like, hey, you know, like this is how I felt like through all those years of like growing up, and like you were telling these stories that I thought, you know, were all like phony and made up, and it's like it kind of was just like I just needed to get away from you kind of thing, and it's just like being able to see them kind of have that interaction where I feel like for a lot of people like that doesn't happen, or it's like to get to that
Mhm.
point where you can able just to, you know, let everything out in the open, like talk to each other for like for once. It was very difficult. um and then to fast forward to this episode, and you kind of it's you see this like automatic change in Kamala's mother, where it's just like she sees Kamala finally at as she is with like her powers from the bangle and stuff like that, and she's just like it's like it was all true, you know. And like
Mhm.
she finally gets to see it's like everything that like my mom was telling me was true, and like here's my daughter, you know, is this like super like this wonderful beam of light, kind of, you know, kind of like look in her eyes, even though she doesn't like say it, like you see in her eyes like her whole perception of Kamala just changed in that 1 second, and it was so perfectly done. Because like moments like that, you don't need to say anything, but if you have the ability to just to show it through your expression in your eyes, it just makes the moment so much better. At least I think. I don't know. That's
Oh
just me. I'm
yeah. No, I definitely agree, because like people always talk about like with I mean we see it all the time now, especially with like Disney movies like, you know, Turning Red, Encanto. We always talk about generational trauma, but we never talk about
Mhm.
generational healing. And so this entire series is all about, you know, four generations of women and all of this generational healing from the beginning up until now. And it's just so nice to see that happen, especially with these three women who have had differences with one another, and they haven't really been able to connect the way that they needed to, and now they're brought together to actually, you know, heal from, you know, all of the things that have happened to them.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well put. It's perfect. Yeah, just Disney just hurting us and healing us, right? Um, Eventually, Mala returns to the present. You know, all the stories come connected. Um, Mala puts together that Najma's hit against the Bengal opened the doorway to Noor, but you know, a couple of the clandestines like, I'm going home, and they get vaporized, which I didn't expect. I thought, oh, they're
They
out of
get
here. No, they're gone. They're fucking dead.
they get
Um,
vaporized like Blade One.
oh, they do. Oh shit. But yeah, even Najma, she sees like people like going down, and she decides to go through anyway. She gets vaporized, but at the last second, she sends the power she has, you know, all the way to Kamran, and so that'll make a nice interaction for the next episode. But I just wanted to say, uh, basically, with that scene, her family is there too. They see that like she's able to do these great things, and of course, they promise to keep her secret, but we know how that turns out. Um, yeah, but it's like a we think we're the like I thought we were kind of done with the like the clandestines, but we're not. It's a good segue though. I was like, oh, it was a lot of surprises for sure. I was like one villain to the next, and I was like, wow, that's pretty great. And at first, I didn't like that concept, but as it unfolded to the next episode, I thought it worked out really well. See what happens next. But yeah, they eventually return home, and even Cameron, who was detained, he finds his way to Bruno. They kind of have a little interaction. Cameron tries to be a little bit better, even though he keeps calling him the wrong name continually. But Bruno's a nice guy. He's like, fine, I'll help you out. And the episode ends with their fucking building blowing up, which was like, whoa, like that was very unnecessary, but like, wow.
Like, that sucks.
Yeah, that too.
And it's like this is the second to last episode,
right?
It's like, what more do we have to deal with now?
Yeah, because that's what tripped me up, because we had everything in Karachi with Kamala, and like everything was like wrapping up so well, because like what's assumed to be like one of the main like villain factions of the show was taken care of, and then you had the whole kind of new relationship form with Kamala and her mom and her grandmother, and then we come to here and it's like, okay, cool, it's like I guess this is only a 5-episode series, and it's like this is going to be kind of like a a cliffhanger for like another season, or whatever happens in the Marvels. And then it's just like nah, you ain't done yet, there's one more episode to go, and it's like you just leave with that the corner store exploding. It's like, oh shit, okay. Like, okay, Marvel.
I personally didn't really care too much about the clandestines. I think they were just kind of like the filler antagonist to me. Because at the end of the day, I think really the real villain, I guess, is like the DODC, all the damage control people. And we've kind of saw a little bit of them, I think, in the 3rd episode where they enter the mosque and they disrespectfully enter with their shoes on. But I digress. But like, it's I mean, I think they were kind of like hinted as the villain early on, but we didn't really catch that until the end of episode 5. And then you realize, like, yeah, we're in deep shit. Like, it's them. So it really sets up the next episode for sure.
So again, like, great episode so far, and I was definitely wondering, like, just like you guys said, like, we're wrapped up. What more do we have? Like, oh fuck, like, we got more to go. So, appropriately titled "No Normal," like the volume run of Miss Marvel. Bruno and Cameron are on the run from Department of Damage Control, and then basically one of the officials, puts out like a order to find them, and we kind of find out she's not all great. She's starting to kind of do it behind the main guy's back. I forgot his name. I call him Stewie. His name is Stewie in Succession. I kept calling him Stewie. Highly recommend Succession if you haven't seen it. Anyways, I digress. Kamala makes her costume using her mom made it. I just thought that was really cool that they tied that in. Yeah.
And just like the piece of resistance for that part was, not only did like she make her outfit, she had it in one of her grandmother's toffee boxes that she complained about in episode 4, and I just felt it was so precious. It's like, damn, this episode like only started, and it's like I'm already getting the feels going on, and I know there's just gonna be so much more that happens.
That toffee box was also in episode 1 with the bangle. So it was like, you saw it early on. And I think it's just like a really common thing that we always reuse like old boxes for some reason to just gift packages. Because why would we order a gift bag? Why? What's the point? Here's an old toffee box.
It's very green. Why not? Right? We used it. Save the planet. But yeah, like, she reunites with Bruno and Cameron. But then what happens is, she thought her identity would be a secret to her family. JK, mom spills the beans to everyone in the family. Everybody knows that she's, a superhero, and, she wants to do the right thing, of course. That's in her nature. And what I like about what happens is her family helps her and her friends, despite everything, to help Cameron get away, even though he's, he might be a quote unquote enemy, but still they're going to work together because they all know it's like the right thing to do. They're with each other. They help lift each other up. And again, I can't emphasize enough. Like, I felt like the family dynamic of helping her and like the community dynamic of helping her succeed was just so well done, so strong. And it was fun too. Like they have their hijinks in the high school. You know, they try to stop the Department of Damage Control agents with like softballs and science and stuff, and like distraction, misdirection. It's just really fun and well done. As what you would expect, right, from like the level of intelligence and creativity from this group. Um, but you know, again, the agents, he's being told stand down. She's like, nah, I got this. Which is gonna just, you know, she's directly disobeying her supervisor. But um, basically, what happens is, you know, things look good, like they're about to get away, but they actually capture Kamala and Kamran, and the power that he got from his mom like starts to manifest, and he's going to use it um, essentially to hurt people. And Kamala is kind of trying to like save people at the same time. Like there's a scene where they're fighting in the bathroom. There's an agent there, and she like saves that agent's life. You know, where he would just destroy. She's there to protect, and we see that unfold with the Department of Damage Control, Cameron and Miss Marvel together in that square. You know, everyone, you know, their community is there to help stop and protest. You know, Kamala's there to protect people, and then Cameron's there to just, you know, wipe out damage control. But he doesn't care who's hurt, you know, in the meantime, right? He doesn't care. He just wants to get his revenge and be, you know, get out of there. And really, I know I'm jumping around. Really cool moment is, of course, she like summons her power and she does, you know, her iconic embiggen, right? And they did it well. I was worried, you know, they didn't really touch it. And some of the you know, I'm not as hard on CGI as Marcelo is, but some of the CGI and some of the episodes is a little rough. But you know, they might fix it. Sometimes they fix it in post. But her embiggen form was fucking badass. They nailed
Hell
it. She was
yeah.
glowing, looking good, kicking ass. Oh man, just really good. Miss Marvel doing her thing, you know. And what I liked is they showed that she uses, you know, she kicks a lot of ass, but then she uses her power to like contain Kamran's power as well. And you know, she's trying to reach him, not just to beat his ass too. Like they're having their dialogue. They're gonna be there for each other and communicate and stuff. So, you know, as much as I do love the action and fighting, but it's like that's not all there is, right? They're building a community and they want to keep the community the same in the message instead of just like you're bad, fight now. You know, it was, of course, they did a great job of doing that, and you know, she's becomes New Jersey's like superhero. You know, they love her. And they do the little TikTok thing, right? They're promoting her on social media and stuff, and they're so proud of her. And you know, it's like, oh, I know her. Who's that girl? You know, it's they just captured that, you know, community foundation really well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just really just everything's led to that episode, and they just pull it off really well. Like again, I didn't expect them to go the direction they did. Marvel, of course, they know what they're doing. They're hella good at what they do. I thought was, you know, they kind of do, you know, they clean up and stuff. And what I was actually surprised to see Cameron go to Pakistan and meet Kareem. I didn't think that was going to happen. It's like you should go, and I do like these, like they meet up and they're not buddy buddies, just like, yeah, you're here, man. Like what do we do? Like, you know, your dude killed my guy. Like, fuck you. You know, I'm glad there wasn't like, let's be friends because, you know, Kamala. And, you know, again, I remember seeing the meme of like, it's Kamala collecting boys, and she had like the gauntlet with the 3 boys in there. And,
What? I did not see that one.
Yeah. Really strong episode. Of course, I'm getting to the big part. You know, after Cameron flees, they find out that he left his car. They all meet up, right? And of course, keep teasing us, but he's like, I don't think you're quite, you know, as supernatural you think. I think it's a mutation. I'm like, what the fuck? But I was surprised because he said mutation, but again, like in multiverse, they do the little X-Men 90s jingle, specifically the cartoon one. Again, I was like, what? Like, me and my wife actually had to rewind. It's like, wait, was that what I thought it was? We went back and we listened again just to the little jingle. It's like, oh my God. So they went from burying mutants to now bearing Inhumans. So they're gonna embrace mutants, and Miss Marvel, may be the first, at least confirmed in the show. We might see with a certain movie coming out soon if they'll make someone the first mutant like in the comics, but we'll see. But yeah, just really, really cool reveal, and of course another post credits, true to Marvel. They show Kamala kind of messing with her bangle, and it looks like he switches places with none other than Captain Marvel, of course. New hairdo, new outfit. She's like, "Oh no, what happened?" And then it cuts there, and I was like, "Whoa!" I was hoping to see her. I was expecting kind of like a visit at the end, like Marvel fans, like, "Hey, I heard what you did. You draw inspiration from me." Nah, straight up, like plot point, possibly connection, and somehow she's involved with Marvel. Boom. That's episode 6. I know I gloss over a lot. We can go back into it a little bit. Yeah, it was a lot. It was great. It was really well done and fun. Very fun.
Yes. This episode was so good, so good. Just from start to finish. I mean, gosh, where do I start?
There's
I
so
do.
much.
I know there's so much. I think just kind of, I mean, right off the beginning, like we do see like the again the kind of newfound friendship between Kamran and Bruno, and it's nice to see that they just like continue that throughout the entire episode, because clearly they have nothing in common, but they're they both really care about Kamala. It's something that is keeping them to like help each other in a sense. Um, and then just going straight into the whole community situation where they're all helping each other out. They're trying to make sure that Kamran is safe. They're trying to make sure that Kamala is safe. And it really instills the idea of community and why that's so important. Because in the past, especially with the MCU, we see so many heroes that are all about individualism and doing things on their own and not really knowing how to work in a community or as a team. And we see that completely shift with Kamala and her entire community, because even though they all know it's her, they want to help her out as best as they can. And one thing that I want to point out is the little hats that Sheikh Abdullah gives to Bruno and Kamran.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that like Bruno gets the haram one and then Kamran gets the halal one, like for those who might not know, like halal is meant to be something that's like it's pure, it's good, and then haram is kind of like clearly like Bruno is not the dude for Kamala. So it was just like a funny thing to see like her reaction. She's like, "What are you guys wearing? Like what?" um but the entire sequence in the high school was so good. I love that Amir also showed up and just had his whole little thing, was able to help out. And then it just got really difficult to watch, just seeing like the DODC interact with these kids and like basically try to help them down. And it's definitely something that is very real. It's something that is like that happens. And it explains the little warning in the beginning of the episode that they actually gave too. It's just the fact that there's so much stuff that is still happening nowadays that it's rough to watch, but it's something that we kind of need to see because this is the reality for people in this community. And it goes back to what Kamala ends up saying to Kamran when she's like, she has that little bubble where, there is no normal. It's just, we have to do what we can with what we already have, and it's, I think it also kind of goes back to the fact that like for her specifically, she's never going to be normal no matter, where she is, whether she's in Pakistan or America, or she's, with the clandestines, if she's with her family, she is always going to be kind of like the outsider in a sense, and she has come to terms with that. So I think that was really nice to see. But yeah, also the like just like the ending moments with her family was really well done.
Yeah.
Just like her being able to open up and say, I am like Nightlight or Night Girl or whatever. just their reactions. It's like they already know, but they are willing to support her however they can. And just, Muniba auntie like giving her the suit, and it just all came together. And then that final like rooftop conversation that she has with Uncle Yusuf, like
Oh,
it just was so emotional. Like, you will always be our little Marvel. And it just like, I don't know, it was just so
oh,
nice.
so it was the perfect cap
It
to the.
was.
Oh,
But also her reaction to being like, I have the same name as Carol freaking Danvers. And then like her dad's like, I have no idea who that is. Like, sir, this woman is all over your daughter's like walls. How do you not know who that is? But it was a really good episode. I loved everything about it. And I know that there's gonna be some stuff that hopefully we'll see in season two, but I think it closed up as much as it possibly could.
mhm.
So I'm really happy with how it turned out.
Yeah. It they definitely, I feel like they hit this one out of the park for the last episode, because you got to have the wrap up from the last episode, and then you also got to, have Kamala have her hero moment, like her like like actual like hero moment. But to see just like how much she's progressed in such a little amount of time, um going back to like comparing how she started to where she got to, when they're making the plan in the school to kind of like do like Home Alone style, take out like all the units that are going to be coming in. Um, you go back to episode one when her and Bruno were making that plan to go to AvengerCon, and she had this whole plan set out. It was going to be so action packed, and then everything just kept going wrong. Like her bike got left out, and so it got stolen. They were running late, and everything was just going wrong. And then you come to this episode, and then she makes up this whole plan with everybody, and they're all going to work together, and you see them making a plan, and it works for as long as they needed it to. And so it was so cool, because it was so cool to see, like, okay, it's like, Kamala is getting that moment where everything is falling into place for her, as far as like her hero's journey. And then, of course, the one thing that I was kind of getting a little worried about was when Kamran was starting to ask about his mom, and it's like, hey, it was like, where's my mom? Like, what happened to her? And then it's like, oh no, it's like, is like, I was so worried they're gonna do like a stereotypical thing, and it's like, hey, you're not telling me everything. I'm gonna be bad now. And like he started kind of like losing control, and I was like, oh come on, don't like it's like don't lose it. And then so I was so happy that it ended the way it did, to where like Kamal just like made the dome around each other, and it just kind of like laid it all in the line. It's like, hey, he was like, I know you're afraid, I know you're scared, and life's not going to be the same anymore, but it's like, you have to trust me. you know go to this place. Everything's going to be okay. You're going to be taken care of. It's going to be fine. And then everything like calmed down, and it was like, okay, cool. It was like, I didn't want Kamran to be like, it's like, I'm going to be a villain now. And I was so worried about that, but it all worked out. And uh I forgot where I saw this. Someone was pointing out, it's like, a lot of people's like, yeah, I was so ready to see Kamala like fight people. It's like, yes, but like, her style isn't so much of her fighting, it's more of her kind of like like protecting everybody.
Mm.
Like her goal isn't really to like get into fights. It's like she wanted to protect. So like, she kind of went through the battle just kind of like doing everything she could to make sure that everybody was safe. It's like, not only her friends
Mhm.
and like everybody around her, but even like the soldiers that were like fighting her. Like, I remember when she started using her embiggen power. It's like hell yeah, embiggen. But then they had some units in a vehicle. I forget what type of vehicle, but it was like gonna be sent like flying because of Kamran, and she like grabs it and like makes sure they're okay, and she's like, hey, you guys okay? And it kind of made me feel good to like hear the guys like, it's like, yeah, we're okay. Like, kind of like, you kind of showing like a little bit of like that individual like humanity within like the person, and it's like it was so interesting because you don't normally get to see that, especially in like Marvel movies. You don't get to have like the little grunt people kind of like have that kind of like, and it's like, oh, thank God this person was here to save me. It's like this is a shitty situation. Oh my God. Like I don't know, that little like little blip just like made it so much like sweeter. And then, you know, especially then when everybody in the community started coming around like Kamala to like protect her, and then giving her enough time to like escape and go away. It's like, oh, that is like pointed out before, like this show showed so much community that no other really Marvel property has done to the extent. Like the only other thing I can like remember is not even like an MCU property, but it was like Amazing Spider-Man. Like that one, like when he was so injured but he had to get across town, and like the whole like community was like trying to make the way where everybody was like blocking off the streets so it was clear, and the cranes were coming in, and like he was going, like that was the last time I, to my recollection, that I could like see like a hero being like fostered by a community of people. And it's like Kamala was just even more so like bolstered up by her community, and it was so cool to see. um and it was so great. And then of course the mid-credit scene, um of having that swap, and it's like, oh, here's Carol Danvers, and it's like for a second it's like you don't know if it's like, did she change, and like did she, like her powers change her into like Carol Danvers, like no, this is like the actual Carol Danvers. Like where's Kamala, you know? And I did like a small bit of research about like uh certain about like the certain bangles, because like we kind of in the show we kind of see like, oh, they got the bangles from what we assume is a Kree, like a Kree. And so in a very very old Captain Marvel comic, he has two bangles that kind of help him boost his power. And what they have the ability is that if one person has one bangle, one person has the other, it has the power to either teleport or swap places with them. So I'm just gonna kind of throw it out for like kind of predictions about the Marvels, where wherever Captain Marvel was in the universe, she found another bangle, and then they got swapped to wherever they were. And so that's what's gonna just kick off the movie. But I just thought it was just so interesting to see, because like you have Carol Danvers just like pop in, and she's like, the fuck is this? And like just seeing all the posters of her, and she's like, oh no. And it's like it just like every other episode of the show, like it just kicks off right into like, okay, I want to see the Marvels. I want to see what's going to happen next. So I think they did a great job, you know, getting people invested for the show and getting invested to see Kamala's progression. And I think like they, by the end of the show, I could say it's like Kamala is probably gonna be the biggest hero for like the next 10 years of the MCU, if it even lasts that long. And I hope so, because they've, for like, there's no perfect MCU movie, but it's probably some of the best storytelling, long form storytelling. And I want to see Kamala like progress through, and hopefully get some Young Avengers action going on, because that's what seems like it's going on. So
We're
that's
waiting
my
for them to
piece.
do it. It's probably gonna
Who
be like
knows?
5 years.
Who
They'll
knows?
finally
It
do it.
seems likely.
Yeah, great show, great show. I love it.
Yeah. You guys said it. I don't need to say it. It's really good. You know, me and my wife have been looking forward to it. And I can't wait to see what they do next in the Marvels or season 2 or whatever. And I can't wait to see the other hero interactions she has with other people, you know.
Yes.
I'm excited for Kamala to meet other people, so it's gonna be
Yeah.
So I am a little jealous because I didn't see a lot of it, but I saw little snippets. But recently Disney just released their new Marvel like cruise line,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
there's an experience in in the cruise where they kind of had, it's like this interactive like dinner kind of thing where like they have these big screens in the dining hall, and there's kind of like this event that happens during the cruise, and like you have, there's like some audience participation, but they do have a little bit of footage of Kamala interacting with the other Avengers, like for the first time. And I was like, really? You're gonna do that for a cruise and we can't see it first on like TV or in the movies? Come on, Disney. Don't do this to me. I can't afford that shit.
The picture they show of her posing at the beginning of Thor, I think is from that. Because I don't think she does that pose in the show. I could be wrong.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure. Either way, I know. Same feeling. It's like, what the fuck? I'm not gonna go on a cruise right now to see Miss Marvel. Well, maybe I will, but no, it's
definitely worth looking up on YouTube because I'm sure people have filmed that like from every angle possible.
Well, speaking of the pose, actually, so she does do a pose, I think, in the first episode, and then again in the 6th episode. I don't know if it's the same one that you were talking about, Joel, but like, I just wanted to bring it up for the sake of the parallel because, like, in the first one, she's like, she's okay, but she's a little bit uncomfortable and she's kind of like self-conscious. But in the 6th episode, she is so confident. Like, she's looking in the mirror and she's like, yeah, this is me. I'm Kamala Khan. And I love seeing that kind of like that really solid progression of her character, and it really shows a lot of like who she's become. And then in an earlier episode too, I think it was in episode 3, where she's talking to Sheikh Abdullah and she's asking him like kind of like questions about the nightlight girl, and she's asking like what can she do to prove that she is good. And Sheikh Abdullah is just like, good is not a thing that you are, it's a thing you do. And I think that line specifically is one of my favorite lines in the entire series, because of the fact that it really kickstarts her entire journey throughout the rest of the series, and it really teaches her on how she needs to be in order to be the best hero that she can be. And I think that's why like there's so much focus on community and family and relying on people around you that are good in order to do the right thing. And it's like Brian said, it's such a good a good show about community and doing, showing what you can do when you have others to help you out.
Definitely. Oh yeah, it's just so good. Marcelo in chat just happened to say the show had some of the best character development across main and supporting cast. Definitely. Like I can't. So good. Yeah, that's our synopsis of Miss Marvel review. I mean, we pretty much fucking love it. I mean, it's safe to say. So if you made it through all this and you're still not convinced, I think you gotta go find out. I mean, we just spoiled the whole fucking thing. But, it's really good. Just really good acting and writing. I'm glad that the producers were people of color too, even though that the writers did change, but overall directors, producers were in charge, were people from that community. So that, another point too is they said like it's the most like the least seen by white audiences across America, but the most by other communities. So I think that means something to people, just like Black Panther and Shang-Chi. If you make it, we'll see it. It's about our people. Come on, Marvel. Come on, world. Come on. We're almost there. I know you guys can see it. Either way, great stuff. Yeah. It's
yeah.
Chef's kiss, as they say. Chef's kiss all around.
I also want to bring up too, now that you bring up like Black Panther, I feel like this is something that's been said a couple times, and I strongly believe in that too. I feel that Black Panther walked so Shang-Chi and Miss Marvel could run. And I am incredibly thankful for the amount of work that has been put into Black Panther to really inspire all of these other projects that we're going to end up seeing, that we have seen. And so it really, just that sense of, really pushing for the things that we want to see in the MCU. And now we're finally getting, projects like Shang-Chi and Miss Marvel, and who knows what we're going to end up seeing in the future. I mean, we even have like Echo and it's just really nice to see like all of these like different people with different backgrounds, whatever it may be. And I don't know, it's really changing the MCU for the better, I feel.
Oh, for sure.
Oh,
Like, like with the trajectory that they're going so right, they can only go like up, like high and far, as far as any ideas. And I kind of love like the more recent direction, at least with like Disney as a whole, where they are giving these people from different walks of life like an opportunity to kind of tell their story through different mediums, where it be animation or through live action like Marvel properties. And so like Disney, it's working good. Just keep going, just don't listen to all these fucking naysayers on like Twitter. No one cares about Twitter. Like just keep
yeah.
going on the course. We all love it.
There's more of us than there are of them, so.
That's for sure. All right. Want to say thanks again if you've been listening to our review live or at Spotify or on YouTube. Before we go to our little after show, of course, want to do our little cleanups as always. Pooja, where can we find you other than here today? Where can we find what you've been up to? What do you want to shout out before we close that up?
Yeah, so you can definitely find me all the time on TikTok. I am Samosas and Popcorn. I'm also Samosas and Popcorn on Instagram and on Twitter, where I am just rambling about movies and TV. I am Samosas and Popcorn because my other one was a little bit too long for Twitter. But yeah, so that's where I'm at. I'm also a writer for the Nerd Initiative. They are everywhere. They're on YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. So I am writing articles for them all the time. So definitely check me out there as well.
Hell yeah.
Right. All right, you made it this far. United We Nerd. Now we're on Twitch. Almost on TikTok. My bad. Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Forgetting one. I put us on TikTok. I feel like there's so many more things I'm forgetting. All right. Yeah.
But you know where else they could find us, Joel?
Nowhere else.
Of course, because
go. I'm sorry. Oh my God, I'm messing it up.
It's okay. Edit and post.
Nah, we won't. We're not.
Nah, we won't. We don't have time for that. Of course, if you want to ask us any questions or just give us feedback, tell us why Miss Marvel is the best show on Disney Plus so far. You can send those on to UnitedWeNerdcast@gmail.com. Of course, if you're watching this live, we will love your feedback on the chat. Come talk to us. It'd be really fun, especially in our post show. We also have our YouTube, where we post our video versions. Leave a comment down there. We can communicate there, especially on Twitter at United We Nerd, and Instagram, like Joel said. We really love your feedback. We really love to have some nerdy ass conversations like we have been doing for the past almost 2 hours. This is so much fun. Love always talking nerdy shit with y'all.
Mm-hmm. Again, where can you find us? UnitedWeNerdcast@gmail.com. Ryan, what if they want to find you specifically?
Oh, me? Well, I also have a Twitch, twitch.tv/Brian Saber. I will be returning to my WrestleBet series, hopefully this week, especially with the most recent news in the wrestling world. And then, of course, you could also find me on Twitter and Instagram at Brian_Saber. Someone beat me to it. God damn it. But yeah. And from there, Joel, where could people find your personal stuff?
Oh, hell yeah. Mad Mech Monster Mine on Spotify, SoundCloud, and also Acoustic Avenger on Twitch, Acoustic Avenger on Twitter. The I is a 1. Also Instagram, United We Nerd. Just find me there. My Instagram's kind of private now that I work with kids. So, all right, go find me there if you want to. Again, thank you for listening. This was awesome. We're going to go to the post show. We have a lot of things I kind of want to talk about really quickly. So, but yeah, again, you seek is seeking you.